All right, here is your 6-way paragraph called Put a Lid on It. Let's think about the title. Put a lid on it. Sometimes people say that when they want you to stop talking. Um, a lid could go on a jar or a container. Um, Not sure what this passage will be about. Make some guesses. And here we go. Sports have always been ruled by the weather. Rain, sleet, snow, and cold called the plays. Baseball fans often sat in the rain without cover, waiting for the sun to come out and the game to begin. Football lovers sometimes took days to warm up after sitting through a freezing cold Sunday game. For both sports fans and players, the domed stadium was like something out of a dream. A huge plastic bubble kept out rain and snow. There was heat to keep things comfortable year-round. Domed stadiums have clearly changed the course of sports. Still, they did have their problems at first. Most of these problems were discovered and solved at the Houston Astrodome. This was the world's first stadium with a lid. For the fans, it was great, but there were some problems for the players. Baseball outfielders had the most difficult time. They had to learn to catch in a field with a roof. At first, this was almost as difficult as playing in the dark. The panes of the roof were light colored to let the sunlight in. Sunlight was needed to keep grass on the field alive. But the light roof blended too well with the white baseball. Fly balls seemed to drop out of nowhere. Even skilled fielders were making errors. Finally, the decision was made to paint the panes of the roof dark. The problem was solved. What about the grass? Well, the real grass was dug up and replaced with artificial turf. All right, so we discovered that put a lid on it meant a cover on a field for football. So let's talk about the first paragraph. It says that in history, sports were always ruled by weather, meaning if you went to a game, baseball or football, you could just be sitting in the rain or the sleet or the snow or the cold. And for baseball, they would wait it out. In football, I think they just play right through all that weather. So a domed stadium, meaning it has a cover or a lid, was like a dream come true for people who didn't want to be cold and wet during these games. Clearly, they have changed the course of sports because people don't have to sit in the horrible weather and games aren't postponed because of weather. So at the Houston Astrodome, which was the first covered stadium, there were some problems because the roof was the same color as a ball. So even the most skilled players couldn't see the ball to catch it. And then obviously if sunlight can't get through the roof, you can't keep grass alive. So they had to put in fake grass, which is called artificial turf. All right, mark the main idea. Over the years, there have been improvements that have made watching sports more comfortable. The domed stadium made it possible for sports to be played in any weather. Baseball and football fans used to suffer if the weather was bad. Okay, so one of these is the main idea, and then one of them is too broad. That means it doesn't have enough detail in it to be the main idea of this particular passage. And then one of them is too narrow or too specific, meaning it takes maybe one detail out of this passage instead of being an a main idea. All right, number 2. This passage is about baseball games, cold weather, how to play outfield, domed stadiums. Number 3, at first, domed stadiums were especially difficult for baseball players, football players, fans, team owners. Number 4, we can conclude that domed stadiums are a thing of the past, a passing fad, causing many changes in sports, expensive to keep up. Number 5, the literary device called hyperbole is an exaggerated statement. Choose the hyperbole from the examples below. Sports have always been ruled by the weather. Football lovers sometimes took days to warm up after a freezing cold Sunday game. It was the world's first stadium with a lid. At first, this was almost as difficult as playing in the dark. So choose the hyperbole from the examples below. So a hyperbole is something that's super exaggerated. So choose the best answer. Number 6. In the passage, the word course means a place for a race, a school of study, the direction, part of a meal. So we want to go back up and find where course is underlined. I can see it right here. So you'll want to reread that. It says domed stadiums have clearly changed the course of sports. Okay, now if you don't know an answer to one of these questions, you want to make sure you go back and reread. I encourage you to read this passage a few times or listen to me read it a few times. And then you will turn in the document that has, for example, it'll say number 2, and then you put in which letter, A, B, C, or D, is correct, and then turn in.